Hello everyone, and in this set of video labs we're going to take a look at composing a scene with more than one character in it inside a motion builder. We're going to work through the retargeting process from the ground up, and we'll set up each character individually just like we would for a major project. This is going to be a really short clip. I'll show you a quick example. We're going to do something similar to this here. So if I hit the play button, I'm going to be setting up some audio and getting the two characters to interact with one another. So I'm working off of some canned mocap animation from the Carnegie Mellon library. And I've got this week 8 lab folder here that you can see here that I've already set up in my asset browser. You can right click and go to add favorite path to add that library to your asset browser. There's a couple of files in there. There's this CH50 non-PBR. It's a Mixamo fully rigged alien model. And we've also got the XO red here. So it's the two models that you had seen before. So if I go to FBX open with no animation here, that's taking a while to bring it in. And you can see we get this alien here, and we've also got a red version of the XO that I've been working with in other videos. So if I hit Control A, that'll bring us back. They're kind of inside of one another at the moment. But I'm just going to go to File New, and we'll start getting this thing started. So when composing a scene and putting together mocap animation, this is going to be a really short clip. You know, if I were to put together an entire scene, this video could go on and on and on and on and on, because there's always something that you can edit or change or tweak to kind of make the animation better. And there's other things that we could cover here, like bringing in props and that sort of thing that we've covered in other videos to kind of compose out the environment of the scene. But the important thing to get out of this is that basically the workflow is to work on the animations for each character on their own, and then bring them in and then try to compose them together to get the shot that you need. Usually this is done with stand-ins, but sometimes you're going to have the animations for everything. And while I would much rather be working with animation that was shot using some motion capture equipment, we're going to try to do this with some canned animation and kind of block out the shot. This would be considered probably like a pre-visualized shot that we could show off and compare when we go to shoot some motion capture. So anyway, the first task that we're going to have in completing this scene is to characterize the two models that we have for our scene. So I'll start off with the alien. That's the CH50 underscore non-PBR. It's an awful name for a file, but that's okay, we'll work with it. And I'm just going to do FBX open with all takes. There aren't any animation takes on this thing, so we don't have to worry. It's just this one, and you can see it comes from mixamo.com. Control A on the keyboard will allow me to cycle through the different view modes, and I just want to make it so that I can see its skeleton. Now we want to characterize this thing, so we need to define its skeleton so that we have it available in the Human IK panel. So if I go up to the Human IK panel here, we've got define skeleton, so I'll define the skeleton. Valid skeleton is required. Do you want to define one? Yes, we do. And I'm going to just kind of compress the key controls and animation layers for now. And what we need to do is set up this character definition. We could do this bone by dragging the bones into here, but because Mixamo's naming conventions are great and Motion Builder recognizes them as a standard naming convention for a rig, we could just drag them in. So I'm going to go over to character definition here. We've got our table here of all of our different mapping lists and naming templates here. We're going to open up the scene, and right over here are the bone structure. You can tell because it'll highlight green when you select it. And what I'll do here is I'll go to select branches, and select branches, what that does is it'll select everything that's parented to the top node here in our branch. What I'll do from here is drag and drop this into the hips area. So I'll drag this in. We'll see here inside of the base we've got hips, and it all lines up correctly. Now to characterize this character, we could just check it off on the list from the Characterize panel here. In the character definition panel, we can check it out from Characterize, and we'll just select biped as the type of character that we're going to be using. And that's pretty much it for characterizing this particular model. I'm going to jump into the characters area of the navigator, and I'm going to rename this character so it's easy to identify it. So I'm going to go over here to rename, and I'm going to rename this thing Alien. And one of the things I forgot to do is add some sort of namespace to this, so I'm going to select the branches again. We might have to redo our skeleton definition, but let's select branches, and then we'll go down to add namespace, and we'll call this Alien. And what we're going to want to do is uncharacterize this one, and then I'm going to drag and drop these nodes back into here so that it lines up again. I've got some yellow areas here in the definition panel. Don't worry too much about those. They'll just be offset slightly by the motion capture. If they're red, you definitely want to, or if your character's in like an M pose or something like this pose right here. So check off Characterize, biped, and it should still be characterized as Alien up here. Alright, so now that he's characterized, we're going to save this out as an asset for our project. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and what we'll do here in the Save As panel is we will change this to Alien _ characterized. That way we know that this is the base asset for the alien in our project. Next thing we'll do is we'll create a new file and drag and drop the exo in, and we'll go through the same process with the exo. So we will define a skeleton. We will open up our scene. I'm going to select his hips. I'm going to select the branches. And I'm going to add a namespace for him. So we'll go to add and remove namespace, and I'll call this guy EXO. The reason why I'm doing this is just to avoid any merge errors for bones that might be named identically, have identical names inside of the rig. They don't in this particular situation, by the way. Both these rigs have unique names for the bones, but if you use like an automatic rigging system like Mixamo or Maya, then what will end up happening is you'll have a lot of bones that are the same name, and these namespaces help to identify who's who. Alright, so I've got these branches selected. I could drag and drop these into the base here. You see it loads it up, and it's all green for this guy, and that's how you can kind of tell it's a different rig. And we'll set him up as biped. Alright, so I have this set up now, and let's see here. What we want to do is go into the characters and rename the character for this guy. And we're going to rename this one EXO. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll then save it. And this will be EXO red _ characterized. Okay, and then we'll save it out there. Now the motion files that I have are inside of this week 8 lab folder. They're 144 _ 20 BVH and 144 _ 26 BVH. Those particular file names come from a system that was developed by Carnegie Mellon University, and there is a website where you can find these converted files. When you download these files, there's a notepad and also an Excel spreadsheet. So I have the notepad one open here. You can hit Control F and search for the different types of motions. Now, while these animations are great, these motion capture animations are great, they're not perfect. They're hardly a substitute for going out and shooting your own animation, whether it be using a motion capture system or working with something like the Kinect or even AR kit for generating motion capture. but they're a good starting point if you don't have access to that stuff. It makes it really easy to start to develop certain things. So if you need things like punches, lunges, blocks, cartwheels, any of those things, you can get them from there. So you can see here I've got 144.20, which is a punch sequence, and 144_26, which is a right block. Okay, so the alien's going to be blocking, and the exo is going to be using the punch take here. Alright, so now that we have that all taken care of and set up, I believe I already saved it out. I'm just going to go over to my week 8 lab and refresh the directory, and we should have those characterized options there. Alright, good. So we're in a good spot right now with this. What we're going to do is now start setting up the animations on these characters. So the first animation that we're going to set up is going to be the punch that is going to be performed by the exo. So if I go to the mocap data folder, the punch was 144_20, which we can see here. And what I'll do is I will just drag this thing into the scene as a BVH import. You can also go up to File and then Motion File Import to import your animation files. So either one will work, but if you do have it set up as a favorite path in your asset browser, it makes it a whole lot easier to just drag and drop it in. Now we're going to have to characterize this particular animation data here, just like we did with our character. So what I'll do here is I will select the BVH reference, select all of the branches, right? And from here, I will go up to the Human IK panel, to the little Vitruvian Man button here, and go to Define Skeleton to create a new skeleton definition to characterize. Alright, and just as we did before, we can drag and drop this into where it says hips, and you'll see that it'll get loaded up properly. I'm not going to change the namespaces on this because we're going to take this right through and bake it to the animation, bake it to the character animation right from here. Okay. So, with that said, we'll zoom out. And what we can do now is finish the characterization by checking this off as a biped. And I'm just going to leave it as character for now and change back over to the exo. And then what we'll do is we'll select the character's animation here. So we'll scrub through and we'll see we have this nice punching animation that's on our character. Alright, so I'm just going to go through the process of plotting this down to the character now, and what we'll do is we'll do some edits on the control rig now early on just to kind of deal with working with those at the moment. So the first thing we'll do is we will plot this back to the exo's character. So to plot that, we'll go up to the Vitruvian Man again and go bake plot to skeleton. And we're going to want to actually make a take before we do that. So let's do that. I'm going to jump in here, click on New. It's going to say, do we want to copy the current data from the take? In this particular situation, yes. Yes, we do. We want to copy that data over. And I'll go down to where it says Takes down in the navigator. And we'll rename Take 0022 Punch. So we'll change it to Punch. And there we go. So now we've got this punch take that we're working on. And before we do that, we'll go over here to Bake Plot. And then I'm going to click on the 3 dots for the plot settings. And we only want to plot on this particular take. So you want to make sure that Plot All Takes is checked off. I've got Rotation Filter set to Gimbal Killer. So if I hit Plot, it should plot it now. And now our exo character will be set to none for the source, and you'll see it still plays the animation. And if I check back to the Mixamo scene, you'll see that it doesn't play at all. Alright, so that's what we want. So I'm going to go back to Punch. And now what we can do is get rid of the reference to the animation and the new character that we made for the character that the animation that we just retargeted. So I'm going to select this and go down to Select Branches. And I'll right click and then go to delete and then confirm, and it's going to ask me a whole bunch of things to make sure I want to do this. I'm going to do yes to all, delete the character, yes to all, and that will get rid of the entire animation reference. So now we have our take with the punch, and we're ready to start doing a little bit of motion capture editing. So I'm going to just edit this slightly to start off with, and the things that we're going to edit mainly, we've got a little bit of clipping that's taking place here. So if I shut off the skeleton for a second, we look here, we get some clipping that's happening here when he puts his fists up to his face, and the hands definitely do not look natural here. They kind of look fugly. So what we're going to do is we're going to plot this to a control rig and edit that control rig to be able to edit the motion. So what we're going to do from here is make sure you have the Exos selected in the Human IK panel. And we're going to go to plot, big plot again, and plot to control rig. Okay, and I'll plot this. And we're going to want a FK-IK control rig. You could do just a IK if you'd like, but I prefer to work with FK-IK, full chematic and inverse chematic. So I don't see the rig, and that's because we got to make it visible. I'm hitting Control A to do that, or you can go to Display and show X-ray. Anyway, we now have our control rig. And what I want to do is pose up the fists. And we're going to use pose control here to pose up both of these fists. I'll start off with the right fist here, the right hand, and I'll select the little arrow in the Vitruvian Man icon here and select the controllers for this fist. I'll turn on the rotate tool, and I'm going to rotate his fingers in. Maybe move in a little bit, and I'm going to move them out slightly, get a nice little pose in here, and then maybe take the thumb controller, and I'm going to hit Control A just so that I can see, whoops, just so that I can see, and I can still select the controllers even if they're not visible. And I've got this set to global right now, so I probably want to set this to local. And I'm going to rotate this thumb in a little bit and then move the thumb inward some. It looks like I'm having a hard time with the local control here. Yep. So I'm going to go back to global. There we go. And I think I could actually take the fingers and edit those slightly as well. There we go. Nice fist. So we've got our character making a pretty sweet fist here. And what we're going to do is we're going to use pose control. So I'm going to focus in on his fist here and select pose control out of the pose control menu. I'm going to make sure I have all those controllers for the hand selected, and I can tell just by looking at the Human IK panel here. They're all highlighted blue as the ones I've selected. And what I could do is hit the plus sign here, and that will create our fist pose. So I'm going to right click and rename this fist. Alright. So now that we have fist created, if I scrub through the timeline, you can see because we didn't key it, it goes back to the way it was. And what I should be able to do is double click and it sets the fist back, right, to the way it was. Now I believe it's adjusting the entire body. So what we want to do is just up here in the Human IK panel, change this to body part. And now if we select the fist, it will do it, and you see that how the body doesn't shift anymore. And I want to mirror this pose onto the other hand, so I'll select mirror, double click again. Oops, why didn't it mirror it? Oh, that's why. Alright, so let's do this. Shut off mirror, turn on the fist, right? And what we have to do is go to the other hand. Forgot to select the controls on the other hand, so I deselected the ones I had selected earlier. And turn on mirror, and double click fist. And you can see now both of the hands are in the fist pose that we just created. So what I'm going to do is add an animation layer, and what we'll do is we'll key these fist posed here to the frame so that his hands will continuously be in a fist. So now that I have that set up, let's do that. So I need to have all those controls selected. So I've got the ones on his hand selected. I'll turn on so we can see them. And I'm just going to go over here in the Human IK panel and Control. I'm holding down Control and clicking the controls on the hand. And what I'll do from here is I'm going to add an animation layer to our animation layers. And on this animation layer, I will then key that pose. So now when I scrub through the timeline, his hands are always in a fist. Wonderful. Alright, so the next thing is I want to fix that clipping issue. So right over here, when he brings the hand up to his face, we're clipping right through his head, and we don't want that. So I'm going to go back to the entire rig here and select that left wrist effector. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move and reposition this thing so it is not in his face. So the first thing I want to do actually is I want to go back to frame 1. We will key it here and then scrub to that point in the timeline where it's in his fist, and we'll start adjusting its position. So I'm going to adjust it so it's out here and hit the key button. So I'll scrub through a little bit further and make sure that his fist is still in that proper position that I wanted it to be in, and it is. Fantastic. Alright, so just that basic edit, I'll leave this animation at that. So I want to plot this back to the skeleton. I'll go back up to my Vitruvian Man panel here and go back to the bake plot settings and plot it back to the skeleton. And this animation should be finalized and edited now. He's in the fist, and he's kind of doing his thing. Bam, 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 bam. All right, so this one's ready to go. This one's ready to start being composed with the other character in the scene. So I'm going to save this as a separate file. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and we're going to save this one as exo-red characterized _ animated, and save that out. And now we need to start working on the alien. Okay, so let's open up our characterized version of the alien. So I'm going to go to open up alien characterized, and we are here. So I'll open them up. And here we are, our characterized alien file. So we want to add that other animation, so we're going to basically be going through the same process that we went through with the EXO. So I'm going to go to my asset browser here, and in my mocap data I've got 144_26, which is the blocking animation. So what we could do is just drag and drop that in, and remember you can also use motion file import to import that file. And we're going to need to characterize the skeleton of this animation file. So what we'll do is go up to the Vitruvian Man here, go down to Define Skeleton, and I'll open up the scene in the navigator here, select the BVH reference, select the branches, and then I'm going to drag and drop them into where it says hips here. And it looks like it's set up properly, so we can check off Characterize, Biped. And we should be good to go. And I'm not going to rename anything at the moment because we're just going to be deleting this animation reference out of the file. So I've got this character set up, so I can select the alien and then go over to sources and then select the character. And now we can see that this guy kind of does this like Mr. Miyagi, Karate Kid, wax on, wax off blocking action here. Just going to do a quick view here. To see if there's anything I really need to edit right now. I believe this animation was pretty good to go. It was an entire lot of clipping, and remember we're only going to be using the first part of this where he kind of throws the block. So looking at that, just that first part, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of noticeable clipping that'll be in the camera frame. So I don't think we have to do too much editing on this one. So what we'll do is we'll just end up setting up a new take for this, or yeah, we'll set up a new take for go to new, and yes, I'll copy the data from the current take for this particular situation. I'm going to rename take 002, and I'm going to rename it block. Now that it's renamed, what I'll do is while I have block selected here, I'll plot the character's animation. So I'll go over here to plot the skeleton, and now alien should say none. He does his thing. If I switch it back to the Mixamo take, he's in a T-pose, which is exactly what we want. Alright, so I'll switch it back to block. Oops, saying I want to make a new take. Block. There we go. And we can start removing the animation data from the file. So I'll go to the BVH reference, right click, go to delete. Oh, I need to select the branches first. And then right click and go to delete, confirm. And we'll just say yes to all, delete the character, yes to all. And that gets rid of all of the animation data that's in the scene. Alright, so we're good with this one then. I'm going to go to File Save As. And we're going to save this as alien underscore characterized underscore animated. You can also like name it the takes or whatever, but typically you're going to have more than one take available for your characters. So animated is just fine for the naming convention for this. Alright, so I think we're at a good point to end this video. So we've got the alien characterized, and we also got the alien with his animation. We've got the exo characterized and also with his animation. I'm going to refresh the directory here so we can see all the files. And it's important to kind of save these as different iterations because sometimes you might not foresee issues that crop up. And you might need to go back to one of these current steps in the process to be able to edit what it is that you're working on. So in the next video, we're going to start combining these animations together into one scene. So we'll have both characters interacting with one another here inside of Motion Builder. I'll see you then.